A former detention officer at the South Louisiana ICE Processing Center pled guilty to one count of sexual abuse of a ward or individual in federal custody. 56-year-old David Corvell appeared in federal court here in Lafayette, where he pled guilty. Prosecutors say Corvell began a personal and romantic relationship with one of the detainees. According to the judge, he could face up to 15 years in prison or a fine of up to $200,000.
Okay, you guys, so this is a different video than what you're normally used to seeing, but I definitely wanted to bring this story to you guys' attention. Now, of course, there's been a lot going on with ICE up there in Minnesota, and there's been so many protests and everything, but this actually happened a little bit before New Year's Eve, so it's been a couple weeks since I've been hanging on to this story, but I just have not gotten around to getting towards it, so I wanted to bring this to you guys' attention. So this happened near my hometown. It's not super close to my hometown, but it's, it's not super far, but yeah, it looks like this happened in Basile, which is in Acadia Parish, which I want to say that's definitely going westbound. I never could remember if Acadia is north or south. I want to say it's north. If someone from Louisiana sees this, let me know in the comments. Of course, I could just go look at a map. But anyway, the title of the article, of course, as you saw in the news clip, is that former ICE officer pleads guilty to inappropriate relationship with detainee in Basile. And the story reads, a former detention officer at the South Louisiana ICE Processing Center in Basile has pled guilty today in a Lafayette federal court to having an inappropriate relationship with a detainee. David Corvell, 56, entered the guilty plea to one count of sexual abuse of a ward or individual in federal custody before U.S. District Judge Robert Summerhays as part of a plea agreement with prosecutors. According to court records, Corvell worked as a contract detention officer at the facility, which is operated by Geo Group Incorporated, between January 1st and July 30th. The facility houses women and detainees of various gender identities. Prosecutors said Corvell began a personal and romantic relationship with a Nicaraguan detainee identified by the initial CH, who was being held on an immigration matter. Between May and July, Corvell allegedly had sexual contact with the detainee multiple times while she was under his custodial and supervisory authority. Its prosecutors said the encounters took place inside the detention center, including in a janitorial closet. Assistant U.S. Attorney Thomas Johnson said Corvell arranged for other detainees to act as lookouts, during the encounters. On July 16th, detention center staff saw Corvell and the detainee exiting a janitorial closet, prompting his transfer to another housing unit. Prosecutors also alleged that Corvell smuggled gifts such as food, jewelry, letters, and pictures of the woman's daughter into the facility. Corvell resigned July 30th after learning investigators had obtained recordings of phone calls between him and the detainee. During a September interview with ICE Office of Inspector General agents, Corvell initially denied the relationship before later admitting to it, prosecutors said. Corvell could face up to 15 years in prison and a fine of up to $250,000. I know the news clip said $200,000, but she may have misread it. Corvell was released Monday on a $10,000 bond. His sentencing is scheduled for April 10th, 2026. Now, the fact that he had other detainees covering up for him, that's crazy. Technically, could they have been afraid or thought that it might get them like some favoritism or the ability to help them in their case? Potentially, of course, I don't know that aspect of it. It could be for any reason. He could have been getting them, special little things like food or access to something that they might not been able to have access to in the beginning. But the fact that this even happened just goes to show. And of course, I don't know the details of when he started working at this detention center. It could have been before Trump took office. It could have been after. I mean, from what it says the first. So I guess that's technically before he took office, before his second term started. But at that point, you already knew that he was gonna be president. So at that point, and I'm sorry to generalize, but man from Louisiana, 56 years old. I'm sorry, but if I'm going to venture to guess, I'm going to think he supports all of this immigration that Trump is wanting to do, like all of the detaining of the immigrants. So I just feel like this man was just using this detainee for his benefit. We don't know the situation with the man's personal background and anything. We don't know if he was married, but I think he was using this woman. I think that this man probably didn't have a wife. I would assume not, because I feel like maybe the story would have said, but not entirely sure. But I just feel like this goes to show that a lot of these ICE officers, whether they're working in a detention center or out in the field, rounding people up in a dangerous way and with using excessive force and violence, they are going to do whatever they have to do to get the upper hand. I'm going to also be fair. This happens in regular detention centers and regular jails. We're not going to look over that fact. Of course, this probably happens every day, and some people get away with it. Some people don't. You could have probably met this woman. I don't know how long she was in there. Who knows if it was just months or years. It says just on an immigration matter. So we don't know. As small as Basile is, I don't know if he lived there. He could have had to commute. Now, because Basile is a smaller town than what I even lived in. So it's like, if there was nothing going on in my hometown, there's probably definitely nothing going on in Basile. So the odds that if she was from that area or lived in that area, you probably would have had a good chance at meeting her. Now, of course, it's easy for me to say that. It just goes to show if he really was in love with this woman, he probably could have met her and went about it the right way. But no, you have to use your racial bias and your prejudice against anyone who is not white to be working at this facility and think you're getting a joy out of seeing people detained. And I know for some people, this is just a job. Some people aren't politically motivated to do certain things. I get that. But like I said, if it's a white man in Louisiana, 56 years old, like I said, he probably is all for this, or else why would you do this? If you disagree with what ICE was doing, you wouldn't be working there still, right? That's just how I would feel. But I just think that this is not going to be the last time that ICE is going to start tripping off of something crazy like this. Now, thankfully, it was an adult woman, because at first, when I first saw this story, I thought it was like a minor, and I was like, oh my goodness, that is crazy. But thankfully, they didn't mention an age. But I feel like if it was a minor, the story would have definitely mentioned that, and it would have brought about way more harsh charges and serious charges. But I mean, to think he could get sentenced to 15 years for that's even just a lot for just the offense. But when you lead with your prejudice and your hate towards a particular group or for anything, it's going to come back and bite you. I just wanted to bring that story to you guys. I don't know. I just think that it's crazy. I feel like you hear of a lot of instances, of course, throughout this entire year. You've been seeing the people who have Trump supporter husbands or wives, and they are immigrants, or they have family members that are immigrants, and they back the spouse or the partner because they think that's what's right when it's not, and they're seeing themselves be at risk for deportation or family members be up for it. And it just really backfires when you lead with hate. It really does. Now, this guy is going to go to jail most likely for having this inappropriate relationship. What if she would have been able to be released? Even if she would have unfortunately been deported, she could have at least maybe called him or do something, and they could have arranged to do that behind the scenes. But no, you wanted to get your benefits out of it while you had the chance to. You could have had that opportunity outside of the detention center and went about it that way. But no, you wanted to break the rules and try to have a secret affair in the janitor's closet. It's always the janitor's closet, but I guess where else are you going to do it? But anyway, you guys, let me know what you think about this article down below. I can't believe when I saw this pop up on my phone as a notification, because yes, I do still have my news app from my hometown area just to kind of keep in touch with what's going on over there. But I want to hear what you guys think down below. So yeah, let me know your thoughts on this, and don't forget to like and subscribe because that really helps. I think the algorithm is changing on YouTube. I know a lot of people are unsubscribing from me. I wanted to mention that as well because I have heard in the past that YouTube will unsubscribe people from channels unknowingly and the person has no idea. So if somehow you're seeing this and you believe you were subscribed to me, double check and make sure that it says subscribe. It should just show like, it shouldn't show subscribe next to my name. It should show just like a little notification bell, because I'm losing people at an alarming rate. Like, I'm not even growing anymore. So I have to be real with you guys. But yeah, I just want you guys to just double check. And if you made it this far, definitely consider doing so because I would really appreciate it. I appreciate you being here, and I'm going to catch you guys in the next video. Bye. See you later.